the Energy and Environment Minister, Josh Frydenberg. Josh Frydenberg, thanks for your company.
Nice to be with you, Emma.
How does extending the life of a 50-year-old coal-fired power station meet the Prime Minister's commitment to an innovative, agile and creative future for Australia?
Well, the Prime Minister's first responsibility is to keep the lights on, to ensure the reliability of our system.
There were no alternatives?
Well, this report that we've got from the Australian Energy Market Operator makes it very clear that there are expected shortfalls in supply in the years ahead, particularly with the closure of Liddell in 2022. So the best option available is to keep that coal-fired power station going for longer, recognising it provides baseload, dispatchable 24/7 power, which is so important to the stability of the system.
It's a bit of an indictment on your government, isn't it? You've been in power 4 years and haven't been able to come up with an alternative?
No, I think it actually reflects that the Prime Minister is putting jobs, investment, growth and the stability of our energy system first. He's interested in engineering and economics, not ideology, which is what we have seen from our political opponents and from many others who have promoted intermittent sources of power, namely wind and solar, without the necessary storage and backup which the system requires.
Is that a criticism of AGL boss Andy Vesey as well? He says keeping old coal plants open won't deliver the reliable, affordable energy Australians need. Do you know better than him?
Well, Andy Vesey is doing very nicely right now out of coal-fired power stations. That's where they get the bulk of their profits. But his constituency is his shareholders. The Prime Minister's constituency is the Australian people.
Well, his constituency, to be fair, are his customers too. If he doesn't keep his customers happy, he's not going to be able to do much for his shareholders.
Well, at the end of the day, he's got to keep his shareholders happy because they're the ones who are investing in his company.
Now, Josh Frydenberg, sorry to cut you off there, but we're going to run out of time. AEMO, the Australian Energy Market Operator, does not recommend that you extend the life of old, dirty coal-fired power stations, correct?
That's not right. They actually make it explicitly clear
that you should keep this open?
They've made it explicitly clear in the report that you should be looking at existing capacity, look at extending existing capacity.
But it's not an existing capacity because the operator says the end of its operating life is 2022.
No, that's what AGL have said. That's not what the operator has said, and certainly that is why...
Well, they are the operator.
Well, that's why the Prime Minister is sitting down with AGL on Monday to have these discussions about how AEMO's report and the shortfalls that we'll see could be met by the ongoing operation of Liddell.
What AEMO does recommend is that the government provide industry with energy policy certainty so investments can be made in a clean energy future.
Well, certainly investment certainty is critical, but we need the investment in the right type of energy, and not all electrons are created equal.
So coal-fired power is the right energy now?
Well, certainly coal-fired power is not a dirty four-letter word. Coal
well, this particular one is. It's the dirtiest coal-fired power station in the country.
But the reality is, Emma, that you need stable thermal generation, whether it's from coal or gas, in order to secure the system. Our political opponents have a formal policy to close coal-fired power stations.
We're not talking about Labor and wasting time on that. Let's talk about what the government's doing. In other parts of the world, you'd admit that other sources have been found and they are well on the way to replacing the old dirty coal-fired power generators. I mean, just look at somewhere like Texas in the United States, where wind power accounts for 23% of electricity generation, and while coal currently represents 30%, by 2035, Texas is tipped to have significantly more wind and only 6% coal-fired power. I mean, where are we going? What's the government's vision in terms of replacing coal-fired power? When are we going to see your clean energy target?
Well, if you point to Texas, what has spurred that economy and supported its energy system has been the shale gas revolution, because they've been prepared to develop unconventional gas reserves. We've got Labor state governments that are not prepared to develop an abundance, decades worth of gas reserves. So we do have a different situation to Texas. I do point out that they also have a capacity market where they pay generators to be available if need be, and it's suggestions like that which AEMO have floated in this report.
When are we going to see a clean energy target in Australia so we have some clue as to the government's vision?
Well, the clean energy target is the 50th recommendation out of the Finkel report. In record time, we adopted the other 49, which are very significant.
Industry's waiting for this one, you'd admit.
Well, industry understandably wants to see a mechanism that integrates energy and climate policy. But what this report from AEMO underlines is
Can I draw you back to my question?
Yeah, I'm actually answering a question, Emma, but you might just want to hear the answer. The reality is that the AEMO report underlines the need for dispatchable, reliable power. So if you are going to adopt a clean energy target or a variation thereof, you need to understand the implications both for price and variability and dispatchability, not just emissions reduction.
Andy Vesey told the Stock Exchange this morning that AGL has made no commitment to sell the Liddell power station nor extend its life beyond 2022.
Well, they have said that they will consider all options.
No, that's what they said to the Stock Exchange.
You're talking about having they made a firm commitment to sell. What if you read those words?
They've said they have made no commitment to sell.
That's right. They've made no firm commitment, but what they have said.
No, they said no commitment, not no firm commitment.
Emma, I was in the meeting. I heard it directly from the CEO's mouth. He said he would consider the sale. So he's telling the share market something different? No, you're misreading his announcement. What he has said is...
No, I read it word for word, as a matter of fact.
Well, what he has said is that he's prepared to consider the possible sale. And indeed, on Monday, we'll be having a discussion about all options that are available because Andy Vesey, like the Commonwealth, want to see the stability of our system.
How much money is the federal government prepared to tip in to make the deal attractive to a prospective buyer?
Well, look, it's too early to say, but what we've already seen is expressions of interest by various companies who may want to run Liddell beyond 2022.
Is it commercially viable without a government subsidy?
Look, it's again too early to make those comments because these discussions are at a very preliminary stage.
But just to be clear, the Turnbull government would be more inclined to, at this point in time to subsidise coal-fired power than renewable energy.
I mean, I don't know what tree you're barking up there, Emma. The reality is...
I thought it was pretty clear.
We have a renewable energy target, which actually does involve consumers subsidising renewable energy. We've seen $7 billion worth of investment, a record level of renewables. But at the same time, AEMO have underlined the need for stable, dispatchable, 24/7 power. People have to understand that, even though for many it may be an inconvenient truth.
Looking back now, do you regret not sticking to a bipartisan approach that you had 10 years ago when John Howard, together with the Labor Party, committed to an emissions trading scheme?
Look, I think there's been some real regrets over the years in terms of the policy debates that have been in the federal parliament because we haven't had a settled energy and climate policy. But at the same time, we're not going to pursue Labor's ideological approach where they actually don't think through the implications for the dispatchability and the price of their headlong pursuit of renewables.
You admit, don't you, that AGL actually said they were closing down Liddell 2.5 years ago. You've been in government 4 years. You've had plenty of time to think about an alternative rather than the default back to keeping open the dirtiest coal-fired power station in the country.
Well, it's interesting that a former Labor Energy Minister, Martin Ferguson, has said tonight that the Prime Minister deserves full marks for keeping Liddell open.
Martin Ferguson now works for the resources sector.
But he actually knows quite a bit about the importance of coal-fired power in the system.
Josh Frydenberg, thanks for your time.
Thanks for your time.